love and fabric where we belong. Every stitch a whispered prayer. In every corner I find you there. Oh, sweet patchwork of our days.
Hello everybody, happy Friday. Welcome to part 2 of the butterfly pixel quilt. This week we are doing 2 parts, 2 chunks of this quilt, but not during the live today. I'm giving you 2 parts and we're all going to be working independently, and today I'm going to spend about an hour with you. We're going to be here till about 4:30 Eastern Standard Time, and as much as I can get done, that's what we're going to do, and then work independently on this, because I really feel like this quilt should be done while taking your time and enjoying the process, right? Hi everybody, it's so great to see you. I want to thank Mimsy. Thank you so much, Selma, for keeping an eye on the chat for me. Hi everybody. Have you started this quilt yet? Are you on the fence about this quilt? What are your thoughts so far? So I have my chunk that I finished from last week, and we're going to take a quick look at that. And I modified my grid, y'all. Same grid, but I'm going to show you something that I did that's really cool. If you follow me on Facebook, then you already know. And it's going to solve the issue of the glue sticking to my paper and ripping up my grid each time I do this. Remember last week? That was a catastrophe. That was a mess. So I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you a simple little hack that I did on the back side of this to stay organized, and I'm going to show you how I ended up pressing that thing. And then we're going to work on fusing some pieces for this week. Fern is on the fence. Wanda says, I have not started but plan to do it soon. Mimsy wants to try this for sure. That's awesome. All right, before we get started, I want to let you know, if you are on Patreon members, UFO Squad members, don't forget Sunday we are meeting from 3 to 7 Eastern Standard Time. I had to just think real quick. 3 to 7 Eastern Standard Time to do the tiny house quilt sewing. So if you want to hang out with us, even if you're not making the tiny house little quilt, join us on Patreon. Jeanette says, no, it's just a learning opportunity. Well, I'm so glad you're just hanging out with us, Jeanette. Thank you, Donna. Actually, you know what? This is actually purple, but the colors of my camera are off. But thank you. Look, I got my clapper here. Donna sent me a clapper. I got it right next to me. And I don't plan on using it during the live because I don't think I'm going to get that far. But I plan on using it when I press all these seams. All right, now before we move on, I just want to give you some encouragement. Okay, like Jeanette said, this is a learning opportunity for her. And I love to spread inspiration and encouragement, not just in this pixel quilt or in your quilting journey, just across the board, whatever you're trying to learn. Do not give up and keep trying. If you have a passion and a desire to learn something, keep trying, keep digging, keep researching, keep learning, keep trying and trying until you get it. And that's what I have been doing. Y'all know that I've been doing deep dives into digitizing, right? And learning as much as my brain will soak in, right? I have been just studying and trying and stitching, going back to the drawing board, stitching it out, drawing board, stitching it out, changing things, little tweaks here and there to get what looks like a chunky braided hand stitch, which I have tried, and finally I think I got it, y'all. And I just have to show you because I am so excited about it. I am just so excited about it. So I want to show you before we start diving into this pixel quilt. Okay, I'm going to switch it down to my desk. Now, many of you have already you've seen these, right? There's the square, granny square, machine embroidery. This is done on the embroidery machine, right? I digitized that. And then the hexagon one, which are very pretty, right? This one's actually my favorite of the two. And they look very pretty, right? Well, I wanted it to look like it was hand crocheted, right? And so I have been studying late nights, early mornings, here and there, whenever I have any free time, digitizing a stitch that when repeated, it looks like a hand stitch. And I think I've come pretty close. So let me just show you. If I can get this up close, see that right there, that circle, and the hexagon, and that hexagon, and that. I digitized that stitch, y'all. I created that stitch from nothing. And I am so dang excited about it. I'm calling it the chunky chain stitch. Now, Embrilliance does have a chain stitch already built into it, but let me just show you how thin and skinny it is. Like this one, that right there is the chain stitch that is already inside of Embrilliance. And I love that, but I wanted it chunky, right? Well, look how chunky this is. Look at that border. It's a chunky chain stitch. See that? I finally figured it out in the wee bits of the morning a few nights ago, and I've been having so much fun with it. So I just feel like I wanted to share that encouragement with you. Whatever you're learning, keep going, because chances are you're right on the edge of discovering whatever it is you're trying to learn, right? You're almost there. Kay said that's a gorgeous stitch. Isn't it so pretty? I absolutely love it. Do you know how much I tried and was stressing myself out? It's not a stressful situation, but do you ever just get so frustrated because you know it's possible, you just haven't figured it out yet? Anyway, I wanted to share that encouragement with you. All right, so let's bring in last week's little block. Here it is, right? And I want to have a discussion with you, because you might be like me and you might have made this block. And I just wanted to show you, just because I have a YouTube channel and I teach certain stuff doesn't mean I am an expert and 100% good at everything I do, okay? Did I post the pattern for the hexie yet? I've only posted these two, Miss Wanda. These are my test stitches. And I feel like this one still needs some work, right? This one, I think, is finished. I've stitched it out several times. Look at this one. I use a variated thread. Isn't that so pretty? But the little seahorse one needs a little bit of work. But I haven't released those. I'm still in the playing phase. Y'all, last week's chunk for me is not square. She's not perfectly square. You can see that right in the camera. Like if you're looking, see that? Oh, there's a slope right down. See this? There's a slope right in. The bottom looks okay, but this is a little wonky. The pressing on the back of this was a hot mess. Okay, let me just flip it over. I got lazy, y'all. The irons with a pointed tip, definitely, that's what I'm going to recommend for pressing these seams. The thing is with this, y'all, is it's not only the fabric that we're pressing, it has a lightweight interfacing on the back side of it. These seams are thicker. Pressing the first set of seams open, not an issue for me. Pressing those second set of seams with the thickness, pressing those open, I was getting really frustrated. But y'all know me, like if you followed me for any length of time, then you know I'm usually press your seams to the side kind of person, right? Pressing my seams open is not something I always do. So I got a little frustrated and I said, forget this. I'm going to be done with it. And I pressed all my seams to one side, the second set of seams. Now, I think part of my frustration was some of my seams, when I was cutting that little folded edge off of them, I cut a little bit too much, and it's harder to open them up in some of the skinnier spots. So I think this week, after I sew these two chunks, I'm going to take a pair of snips that have some finer blades like this, and I'm actually going to go inside and snip right along that fold instead of cutting the fold off. That's my plan for this week, okay? And that'll give me more of an allowance to actually work with. And then we'll see how I end up pressing them. And I'll, of course, update you next Friday. I might even share like a snippet on Facebook if you follow me on Facebook. So, having a plan for pressing my seams, I don't really even have a solid plan for that yet. I don't know if I'm going to continue to do this or if I'm going to leave more of the allowance and press that second set of seams open. Either way, my first block is not square. I'm going to go with it for a little bit though. Let me just tell you, this block is supposed to be at this point 10.5 inches by 10.5 inches. Mine is 10 and a quarter, 10 and more than a quarter, 10 and a quarter, 10 and a quarter, and 10 and a half, right? So it is wonky. I do think I could spray it with some water and really mess with it and get it pulled out some. I think folding that second set of seam allowances to one side has eaten up some of the seam allowances, therefore reducing the size of this piece. And we have some thickness in those seams, and so folding it to the side, of course, would eat up some space. So that's where I am with that. Also, I've decided this for sure. I'm not sewing any of these chunks together until I have all of my chunks done, and then I will sew them together. Originally, I thought I will sew the first 4 together and have one row done and assemble, you know, the quilt in rows as we're making each one of the little chunks, right? I think I'm going to hold off on it. I'm not opposed to remaking this block again. I'm not opposed to that. So if this is the only wonky one, I might end up making it again, and it would be harder to do if I join it to the next part, right? So I'm going to hold off on joining my blocks into rows until all of my stuff is done, and that's just me. And one other thing that I've decided, y'all know, last week I started labeling my fabrics so that I could repeat them whenever I saw this block, you know, this swatch on another week. I could repeat the same fabric. But I think that was like really hindering my free flow sort of in the moment kind of feel on this quilt, and I'm not going to do that. I have thrown all my little tags away, and I'm just going to go by shade, and even in spots where this is all repeated right here, I might mix it up, keeping the same. This is a mid-tone green. I'll use mid-tone green fabrics in this place, but not necessarily the same one in all of this. Does that make sense? All right. Okay, so that was last week. Oh, and one more thing. So what I've decided, since I'm not sewing these together, and because if you just look at this, you're like, I don't know what week this is. I've started writing on the back of it, week 1, and a little arrow pointing up. Like I know that it sits like this, right? And down here in the bottom left, I wrote bottom left so that I know where this block takes place in this quilt, right? So that's how I plan on staying organized as we build the chunks for this. I can put this over here. Let's take a look at what I'm releasing this week. 2 chunks, right? This is week 2, this is week 3, so this would be the second block in the first row, and this would be the third block in that top row. Okay. Yeah, that's 200 little squares. I also got my storage box containers. They came in last Saturday, so I've been busy cutting fabrics for this quilt, right? And color sorting them. I have one more empty box just in case. And I still need to cut out some black fabrics and maybe some more blues. We will see. But look how organized that is. See that? And then I decided, since I had to reprint my grid anyway, because I tore the one up from last week, y'all saw the glue seeped through my interfacing, stuck to my paper grid, and the time it took me to place all those fabrics, the glue had started to dry into my paper and ripped all of my grid to pieces. During the live, I even still have some paper remaining on the back side of almost this entire piece. See that? So I was like, how can I prevent that? Because I'd really like to use the tacky glue. So I reprinted the grid and I laminated all the pages, cut them, and taped them together. So let me show you what I'm working with this week. She's laminated. Let's see. This is the first page, second page, third page, right? I laminated them individually and then I cut them and taped them together with clear packing tape. So it looks like one great big laminated piece, but it was laminated in 6 sections and then cut and taped together. She is glue proof. And I've already tested that to make sure, because nothing like your whole grid sticking to everything during a live video, right? That was a catastrophe. Anyway, here we are. This is my laminated grid. And if you want to follow along in this quilt, y'all, the grid is free. The papers are free. There's a link down in the description box that brings you over to this week's clues. And also there's a playlist for all of these videos down in the description box, okay? All right, so let me just show you how I'm planning on doing that using the laminated version. I have my interfacing here. The bumpy side, the adhesive side, is facing up. This is the smooth side. I'm just gonna lay it right over top of my grid, like so, right? And I'm gonna take some binding clips. I'm just gonna binding clip this interfacing to the grid. Hopefully that'll be strong enough to hold it so nothing shifts around. We'll see. Two clips up at the top and 2 at the bottom. I have strings everywhere, y'all. There we go. And I don't have to worry about shifting my interfacing as I'm laying down all of my pieces. And I'm gonna go ahead and just bring out week number 2. It looks a little dark on the screen, doesn't it? my suggestion is if you have a hard time looking at the print to see the colors in real detail, open up the PDF on your computer or your tablet, your laptop, your phone even, because I really feel like you see the colors much better on a device versus printing them out. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna go ahead and get started with. And this week I'm using Turbo Tacky Glue because it dries faster. and I'm not worried about it sticking to my grid. So we're mainly working with greens and yellows. It's hard to see here on my screen, but here is a dark blue, right? These three here are a bit of like a light sage green. And then we do have two lighter blue squares right here, right? Everything else is yellows and different shades of green. This almost looks brownish, these two right here. But I think like a darker green would work fine. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start fusing some fabrics into place. And we're gonna hang out till about 4:30. And whatever I get done, and whatever I don't, I'm gonna be doing in the evenings. Yeah, that's my plan. Okay, so greens. This is like my color palette, my watercolor palette, right? I have all these fabrics already pre-cut, and you can see I kind of put them in here from darker greens, mid greens to the lighter greens. See that? These two here are sort of a bluish green. And I didn't buy any special fabrics, although I think had I had more time and actually been able to go and shop around, I might have. But this is all from my stash. And actually, I've done a really good job at reducing lots of little offcuts of fabrics in my scrap bins. And I'm even trying to think of ways that if I don't use all of these, how else can I use them? Pre-cut 1.5 inch squares. So that's how I'm approaching this. My little box with me in the corner is going to be over the first two little squares. All right, so we're working with some dark greens, some middle greens, some lighter greens, more like a greenish yellow. I don't know that I cut any greenish yellow, so I'll improvise. Some yellows. Let's start right up in here. Heather just got home from the quilt store. What did you get, Heather? So we're going mid-tone greens. And you can see, I'm just going to add little dots of glue everywhere I want to put a mid-tone green, because this week, even though these are printed the same swatch, I'm going to mix them up. Mid-tone greens, but I might mix them up, right? Let's come in here with, the hardest part is picking some. Let's do some of these. What did you get at the quilt store, Heather? Well, see, I put my glue dots down, so I know where my fabrics are going to go, and now I can just pick and choose what I'm placing in those spots. Here we go. Let's put those two together. You know what it is about this quilt? Usually when you're working on a quilt and you're doing it block by block, when you finish a block, it looks like something, right? And you're like, oh, that's so pretty. What I realized after last week is that the little blocks, once you're done with them, they don't look like anything. They don't. And so it's really hard to get excited about a project when you can't see what is this, right? But the cool thing will happen once it all comes together, right? Let's go in with some darker greens. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2. Let's stop there for a minute. Darker greens. What's that art? And I tried to think of it right before I started. What's the type of art that's made out of just pixels? Just dots. The name of it is right on the tip of my tongue. It's just dots. But when you stand away from it, it's a picture. What is that? For the life of me, I've been trying to remember the name of it, and it's not coming to me. That's what I feel like this quilt is. Except our dots are little 1.5 inch squares. Is this a woven interfacing? This is the same as Pelon P44F, which I don't think technically is a woven interfacing, but it is a fusible interfacing. Let's bring back this one here. And fill these in there and there. Now we have 3 really dark squares right there. 1, 2, 3. And then these 2 are really dark. Dark. The only thing about this is I get glue on my fingers and then the fabric doesn't want to stay. There. And there. Let me just tell you something else I've realized as I was cutting these little squares out. I have found some fabrics that I had forgotten I even had. You ever do that? I feel like my screen is so dark today. dark, and dark. As soon as I put this one down, I'm going to see if I can't brighten this up just a little bit for you, because this white really washes out the camera a lot. So let's see if I can't fix that before I move on. So yeah, I found some fabrics that I'd forgotten about, which is fun. And I also found a yellow fabric that I had 2 fat quarters of, and I never use the fat quarters because I don't really like them. But when they're cut into little small 1.5 inch squares, they look really pretty. Isn't that funny how it happens? Let me see if I can fix this camera just a little bit. Give me a second here. Hopefully I don't make it worse. That's better. Is that too bright? There. I think that's, at least you can see the colors that I'm using a little bit better. Would woven interfacing work? I don't see why not. My thing is, you want it to be super thin, right? Because it's going to be in the seam allowances, making those seam allowances thicker, right? You want to be able to fold it on itself and sew in both directions. And if you missed last week, you'll want to check that out, how I did that. It's a longer video, but I go through placing the fabrics, heat setting them, and sewing the seams in both directions. Pointillism. Thank you, Anitra. Thank you. That was getting on my nerves. I couldn't remember that. Yeah, I think you can see my colors a little bit better there. All right, let's go back up in this corner. Some mid-tone greens right here and here. Pointillism. That really gets on my nerves when a word is just like right on the tip of my tongue. And I can't remember. Now we have some lighter greens. Let's go ahead and place those. There's one there, 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 and there. Let's bring in this one. We had some pretty strong thunderstorms come through last night. Anybody else? That goes there. And that goes there. And then we have 3 sort of, it's sort of like a lime green. But I'm going to see if I don't have anything in my yellow box that would work. Not really. I'll bring in this green here. This one. We're going to do this right here. Here, here, here. And let's go right there. And I will switch that one up for I choose you, Pikachu, right there. Let's just keep working right down through here. We have these two. What is that? That's gonna be yellow. So let's pick some greens here. I feel like I need to revisit my greens. I've only been cutting these little squares out of my scrap buckets, but I feel like I have some fabrics in my stash that if I cut into some of them would be better suited for some of these if I wanted to match them more exactly. Do you know what I'm saying? But we're improvising. That's gonna be blue, green, and I'm pulling out my first yellow of the day. That's sort of a bright yellow. Let's pick this one right there. And blues. That's a darker blue. I feel like this one would be perfect. Right there. Beverly's having a thunderstorm right now. Here comes Dolly. She's not been hanging out with me so much. She was in here this morning. Hi, girl. She was in here this morning. Where have you been? Where have you been? As long as she don't start barking. And then she's been sleeping in her big bed in the living room all day. Hi. Are you getting lonely now? Look at her tail going. You're getting lonely now. All right, let's come back on this side. We used this one. Let's break that one back out. Where did I put it? Now where did I put that green? I feel like it's sitting right underneath my nose. Is this it? No, but let's use it. 1, 2, and a yellow. 1, 2, and a yellow. It's actually much cooler today though than it has been the last couple of days. Let me just tell you, the garden is in overdrive. I need to start making some pickles because we're not selling cucumbers fast enough and we're not using cucumbers fast enough. And my whole refrigerator is nothing but cucumbers. They have taken over everything. All right, we're gonna go underneath and let's go here, 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 and here. Let's just do that. cucumbers everywhere. All right, let's bring back this green. Like that. And sort of a mid green. Let's do this one. Why not? There. There. And there. A little bit darker. So let's go with this one. Let's see, where are we? Yellow, dark green, dark, dark. Oh, that's the wrong tacky glue. Dark, dark, dark. Darker than that. Just so I'm not confused about what you're doing differently when doing the different shades. Each shade the same fabric, like all the lights the same fabric, all the medium the same. You can do that for certain. Like last week when I did it, this whole group right here, all these patches here, I used the same exact fabric. All these, I used the same exact fabric, just a little bit darker than this, right? And then towards the end of last week, when I got down to this corner, even though this patch here is the same as this, I ran out of the fabric I was using for this, right? So I changed it up. Now, I think I've decided like that is too planned for me. And I am certain you'll still get the same effect if you do different fabrics like I have here, but the tone of them, the shade of them is the same, keeping the shade value the same. Like these are they're not light green, they're sort of like a mid-tone green. These are darker, these are darker, right? So you'll see 1, 2, 3, those I did the same. But then these mid-tone greens, I've changed them up a little bit, right? They're not really dark, they're not light green. So there's a difference in the value. See, these are not super light green, but they're lighter than these greens are. See that? That's what I think I've decided to do. Yeah, cucumbers rot super fast. I gotta get busy and make some, instead of digitizing chunky chain stitches, I need to be making some pickles. That's what I really need to be doing, to be honest with you. All right, I still have a ton of relish from last summer and dill pickles. So my plan is bread and butter pickles this year. That's my plan. All right, let me figure out what this is right here. So we have yellow, this, this, and this. So right now I'm working right there underneath those two darks. Let me fill this in. That's really what I should be doing. Tonight for supper, we're having yellow squash and onions. Because the yellow squash has also decided that it's gonna come in full blazing as well. Let's go with this. There. I've also sort of just come to the realization with me doing this quilt that I'm not going to take this so serious. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm just going to have fun with it and not be so mathematical, so precise and planned out. Do you know what I mean? And I bet you I will enjoy the outcome of it so much better if I'm not so strategic about it. And it'll look more patchworky and not as planned, right? That's my thinking on it. All right, I'm coming down here. 1, 2, 3. One, two, three. Here, here, and here. Let's do these two as well. These are sort of all mid-tone greens right in through here. Not light, not dark, somewhere in the middle. I've also realized that I don't have very many yellows in my fabric whatsoever. Not in my scraps, not in my yardage, nowhere. I have very little yellows, which I thought was interesting. See, on this one, I'll use the same fabric for all 4, because why not? See that? And then let's go and use some of these. Like that. See that? All right, we have right here our sort of sagey green, so let me tackle that. I don't know that I have cut a sagey green, but I do have this, which is sort of like the background is, I don't know that I would call it sage. Maybe. It's definitely not showing up as sage on the computer screen. But it is a really pale green. So I'm going to use those right there. And then these are lighter than what we've used so far, right? These, that little patch right there. I'm going to come in here right there with a brighter green, like this. And then I'm going to do blue, blue, yellow right here, 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 and here. These are lighter greens. let's just use it. That's what I have. Like that. Chunks of yellow right down here. That yellow is a little bit darker than these two. So let's put that there. And then that there. And that there. See that? Two light blues go right there. 1, 2. Let me pull out my blues. Lighter blues. Let's do this one. And I'm going to use the same fabric for both. What's also really cool is this is the same fabric, right? But if you use the back side of it, it's not quite as dark, right? So you could do that. You could visit the back side of your fabrics in some cases. I got glue on the front when I did that. So that's my blues. We can move those back. Now we're going into some dark in this bottom corner, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 dark. 3 darks. 2 darks. 1 dark. Let's do that. These are all darkers. Darker greens. So there's 1, 2. I could at least try to put them on straight, Lisa. You know what? Let's move you right there. Or no. Let's move you right there. So just letting you know, I will be putting a post up on Creative Crew probably sometime this weekend. If you're making this quilt and you want to share your progress, you can take a picture of your work and post it in the comment section of that post. And next week we'll do a little show and tell of your progress with this quilt. And I think that that would be a lot of fun. Let's still use dark green, but mix it up just a little bit. Look, I have little glue tags all over. I think having some baby wipes next to you, if you're using glue like I am, is not a bad idea. You can sort of clean up as you're going along. Light green or yellow and a light green or lemon green. I might just substitute it for a yellow right there. And I'm gonna look through my stash and see if I don't have some like lime greens that I can cut a little section out of and cut some squares into. I'm gonna see. That and that is the same, and I used that. Let's revisit that one and bring one of those in. Right there. And I do have this. Let's use that right there. Perfect. And we have two more. Where am I? So that's sort of like a brownish green, which I don't have any of. So let's use this. Perfect. And 1, 2, 3, 4 and up. That is sort of this right here. And I'm going to turn this iron on and we're going to fuse this block together. And then sometime through the week, I'll be sewing this and fusing all the parts for week 3, right? Don't pay attention to the weeks. Consider this block 3, okay? But I'll be doing this before we meet next Friday. And when this iron warms up, we're going to fuse all this together. So watch this. Clip, 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 and clip. And it just lifts right off of my laminated grid. How genius was that? Now hopefully none of these moved around too much when I did that, because the glue is still wet, Lisa. Don't get carried away. Yeah, that was a disaster last week, pulling that up off of there. I'm going to bring in my pressing board. And I want to bring in a silicone mat. And when this iron warms up, we're going to press this. But I do want to take away my grid. So let's carefully lift this up, since that glue is still wet underneath, right? And there we go. I still have fusible exposed on the edges, so I'm going to use one of these Teflon pressing mats, right? Because the adhesive doesn't really stick to the Teflon pressing mats. And I'm going to fuse all of these fabrics in place. It's also going to dry the glue because it's still wet underneath. Sharon, you made it to the live from hot Houston. We're a little bit cooler today. I mean, it's not cool, but I think it's supposed to be like 83 today. Yesterday, the heat index was well over the hundreds. All right. I'm going to start fusing this in place. Yeah, I love this little iron. I love how hot it gets. I love the small footprint it takes up on my desk because space is very limited. But it's oval. See that pressing plate? They had some that are pointed, but I got this one. And it's made pressing the seams a little tricky, trying to get the seams open. So when the live was over last week, I brought out my regular iron, my Black & Decker, and worked with the pointy end of the iron. It was still taking forever though. Let me just tell you, I got impatient with it. But this little iron, she gets hot. Let's see how that's looking. Beautiful. I need to get this side right here. Karen, we are still live, but we are finishing up for the day. I'm just fusing this one particular block. But this week we're doing 2 chunks, not during the live though. You will have to come back on the replay though, because I shared a couple like realizations today after doing last week. And if you're making this quilt, you might be interested in those things. All right, I'm gonna pick this up. And we're pressing the bottom now. Oh, on another good note this week, I have one air conditioner in this room, right up there. I forget the name of that, what kind of unit that is. But it's mounted right up there, right? And last summer, I got a smaller window AC as a supplement that goes in a window over there that you can't see. And it really helped out a lot. Well, I had to get a long extension cord for something else that was taking up the wall plug space of that air conditioning unit so I could plug it in, because I don't want to plug that into a strip outlet. You know what I'm saying? I want to plug it directly into the wall. So I had to wait because I needed a heavy duty extension cord for what was taking up the space of that wall unit, that wall plug. So we got it, and now I can plug that air conditioner in, and it really helps because this room gets so hot. It is not insulated like the rest of my house is. It's not. So this room in the summer will cook you right out of here. And in the winter time, you better bundle up because it gets cold in here. But the good news is we got an extension cord for the other thing, so I could plug that into a whole different outlet and plug my AC in. And I can tell a huge difference. It still gets toasty, but not as toasty. Do you know what I'm saying? And any little bit helps. I'm just checking the edges. See how the edges, all the edges, everything is fused right to the interfacing. That's what we're looking for. Someone had asked on Facebook, could you just use like a cutaway stabilizer? And hopefully my answer wasn't confusing. But here's the reason why I'm using a fusible interfacing, which just stuck to some wet glue on the bottom. There we go. Here's why I'm using a fusible interface. Oh, see that right there? because of the edges. If you were to use a cutaway stabilizer in place of the fusible, you'd have lots of raw edges like this. See that? And when we go to start flipping this over, you might have this piece accidentally folded. So all your edges need to be secured. Do you know what I'm saying? So let me press that again. Like right here and right there is loose. That's a little loose. Let's do this whole section down here again. Did you share where you got your organizer for the small cut fabric? Sharon, I put a link in it in the description box. It was a 4-pack of these boxes. They're just embroidery floss boxes or craft storage boxes, fish tackle boxes, you know what I'm saying? These little dividers, you can take them out and make longer sections, right? I got the 4-pack and it was like $20. And I got them really fast too. It was only a couple days and I got them. But I did put a link down in the description box of these same exact boxes. And let me just tell you, the box that I was using last week, I swapped out for these newer ones because this is more clear and you can actually see through the top a lot more clearly than the other box that I had. So I've swapped over to the newer ones because I can see through the top a lot easier. Now let's check and see. Oh, that's much better. I'm just checking for loose ends right around. Everything looks really nice and fused. So this piece here is ready to start sewing. And what's crazy awesome about this is you see all these gaps, right? None of that matters. None of it matters. And so if you're wondering, if you're just tuning in this week and you're like, what do you do with it now? You're gonna want to go back to last week's video. And the cool thing is the link in the description box brings you to the playlist. You're gonna scroll to the first video. That's a long video, and that's because we went through the whole process, right? We talked about the materials for the quilt. We did this together, and then I sewed this whole thing together and started to press it, right? My paper grid stuck to the whole thing. It was a fiasco. But anyway, you see the whole process, all right? Each time we meet now, we're meeting for about an hour, and I'm gonna do as much as I can. And yeah, there we go. So here is my chunk, see that? And I'm gonna just let you know right now, I like, and the camera is not picking up what I see in person. I can tell you that right now. The colors I see in person, I'm looking at the screen, they don't so much look like that in person. But I can already tell you after doing this and mixing up the chunks, right? Like this chunk here, using the same sort of tones or light values, but mixing it up, I think I'm gonna like that a lot better. So much so that at some point I might end up redoing my block number 1. I might not. I might just go with it, right? But so see this, I used the same fabric wherever that swatch was, right? And I kind of like that too. See this? This was all the same patch, right? And then I started running out towards the bottom, and I forget which one I ran out of. But so this will be more patchwork like. And I know it doesn't look like anything right this minute, but in the big scheme of things, it's all going to come together. So that's where I am at the end of this week. I still have block 3 to do this with, and then I'm sewing a whole bunch of seams. Okay, I'm going to be putting a post on the Creative Crew, and I'll tag it so that it's up at the top of the page. And if you want to share your progress on this quilt, you can go to that post. Next week we'll do a little show and tell at the beginning or at the end of next week's video, and I'll show off what you're making pixel quilt wise, right? And yeah, I hope that you share what you're doing. Y'all get to see my stuff every week. I love showing off your stuff. Catherine said, don't redo it. It's gorgeous. All right, I won't redo it because it's solid chunks, but if I can't get it more squared up, then I might have to. Do you know what I'm saying? We'll see how the pressing goes with this one. All right, everybody. So yeah, have fun with this. 2 whole complete blocks this week. And if you're just now starting, there will be 3 blocks altogether to catch up to where we are after this week, right? Next week, we're going to do 1 or 2 chunks. I'm not sure yet. I haven't made up my mind. And this pattern is free. So if you have a bunch of scraps and you're looking for something to do, if you like diamond painting, kind of the same concept, right? Only in fabric. Y'all have fun with this. I do like the more scrappy look, Karen. I really do. I think I'm going to like this much better. And it's not so restricting. Do you know what I'm saying? All right, everybody, I hope you have a fantastic weekend. If you're out in the heat, stay hydrated, y'all. Stay in the shade if you can. And I look forward to seeing everybody next Friday. And I also look forward to seeing your updates with this quilt on my post on Creative Crew. If you are on Facebook and you haven't joined Creative Crew, there's a link for that down in the description box. And make sure you answer both security questions, right? Okay, everybody, I will see y'all next week. Let me come over here before we go. There we go. Dolly's passed back out. She is so much like me. We don't do the heat very well. And she's like, it is too hot to overexert myself. But when the sun goes down, she perks up. That's how it is. Have a great week, everybody.
In the quiet of the evening light, with needles dancing, stitching him tight, each patch a story, every thread unbinding love and fabric where we belong. Every stitch a whispered prayer, in every corner I find